If you had to describe how you felt before treatment in one sentence, what would you say?
It was challenging for me. No matter what I seemed to try, the results really weren't to the level that I wanted. I met with Dr. Kachi, and we started treatment with various medicines, and some of them were more effective than others. But with medication oftentimes comes certain side effects or ways it makes you feel, and the results were close, but they weren't quite what I wanted to see. So I was open to something new to try.
Tell me a little bit, what was a typical day for you before treatment?
Day to day, I think the most frustrating part for me was I didn't suffer with depression for most of my life, but once I hit my mid to late 50s, that's when it really started to hit me, depression and some anxiety over certain things. And it really would manifest itself for me with sort of rumination and obsessive thoughts. And one of the things, the internet is great for a lot of things, but what it's not great for is, real world advice. When you look up rumination and how to stop rumination, the internet will say, stop ruminating, which is easy to say, but difficult to do. So I decided to meet with Dr. Kachi and try to experiment with different medications under his guidance to see which medication would work best. And some had what I would call acceptable results for me, but they weren't quite where I wanted them to be. So day to day was challenging for me because it was fraught with a lot of rumination and a lot of just obsessive thoughts.
Do you feel those obsessive thoughts or rumination was affecting the quality of life or your family or?
Yes, and the obsessive thoughts and the rumination was affecting my mood. It was affecting my ability to interact with my family. And others. It was affecting my ability to get work done and concentrate on work. And it just got to a point where I really wanted to do something about it.
Yeah. What were other treatments like? You mentioned medications, or what did it feel like? Or
well, first of all, medication may be a fine route for some people, for sure. And indeed, some of the medications that I tried did help me. Absolutely. Some did not, some did. But depending on the person, some medications have certain side effects that are greater or lesser in certain people. And for me, there were certain side effects that were not acceptable. And I try in my day-to-day life to take as few medications as possible. So it got to a point where I was very open to trying something else like TMS, because I knew the opportunity was there. At a point during my sessions with Dr. Kachi, the medication counseling, Dr. Kachi did mention TMS as an option. It was never presented as this is an option you must try, but rather this is an option that you could consider. But it was always in the context of what were we doing with medication, what results were we seeing, and were medication results enough, or did we need to look at trying something else?
When you tried medications and you felt like, I'm trying different treatments and it's not working, was there a frustration there?
Certain medications work better than other medications. I think I was frustrated by some of the medications because they would get me close to where I wanted to be, but not fully where I wanted to be. Now, I understand that no medication and no treatment is perfect. It just isn't. But a medication would get me 75 to 80% of the way where I wanted to be, and I just felt that it needed to be better, because if I'm ruminating less but still ruminating pretty significantly, it's not acceptable. So yeah, there was some frustration, and as I said, there were some medication that worked very well, just had certain side effects that just were not. Sleep was very difficult in some cases, and it's just challenging.
What made you to eventually come to a point to consider TMS seriously?
I started thinking about TMS seriously when we were on probably our third or fourth medication. Again, these medications did show some signs of progress and helping, but they weren't fully there. And I started, since Dr. Kachi had mentioned TMS, I started doing my own research, and I also supplemented that with some documents that were here in the office, and realized that this was becoming quite a significant accepted treatment that was approved by my insurance. My insurance is not anything outrageously special. It's just, your average insurance, and the insurance did cover it, and other than my copay, which I would expect. And I got to the point where I was thinking I didn't want to continue experimenting with medications when there was a very viable option that was out there that I knew would require some time and would require some commitment, but I wanted to see how it would provide result and relief for me.
Did you have any hesitation?
Of course, I did have hesitation starting TMS because of a few things. Perhaps that isn't right, but in my mind, I was thinking of the old school brain treatments, the electroshock treatments, which of course this is not, and I had to sort of make a connection between what was and what is, and how this has become evolved into a very widely accepted treatment. I didn't know how comfortable it would feel. At first I didn't know, even though I found out through the office here that my insurance would cover it, I was concerned about cost, and I was concerned about time. It's a treatment that does require consistency to be effective. And I was able to dedicate specific time to being here every weekday for a significant number of weeks. I guess it was 7 weeks or so. And I wouldn't say that I saw results right away, but I did see results as the process progressed. So once I was able to understand that I needed to see if this was viable for me, and once I dedicated the time, and once I understood about the insurance covering it, that removed a lot of my concerns.
Do you recall what your first session was like?
My first session was a combination of intrigue, if you will. I was just excited and interested in what it would be. And I wouldn't say, it's not fear, it's just a little concern. You are something is addressing your brain, and I didn't, know. But the staff here is so professional, and the doctors here walked me through what the procedure would be, and the medical staff here was very patient and calm with me, and helped me through and explained to me what each step would be. As far as how the treatment felt at first, it is, I would not say it is uncomfortable. I would say it is different. You need to get used to, it is not painful. You need to get used to the way that it feels on your head. It's not, I didn't have any major side effects with it the first time or any time. Occasionally, I would have mild headaches, very mild, nothing that was out of the ordinary. So yes, I had to go through the first session and understand the way it would be. But once I did that, I was very comfortable going forward. Toward the end, it was like anything else. It was like riding a bike. It was, I knew exactly what to expect. I look forward to it in a way.
How would you describe the treatment to someone who's never heard of it?
I can understand, because I went through this myself, how hearing about a treatment like this could seem somewhat foreign. It's a magnet, it works on your brain, it creates new neural pathways, how does that work? But once it was explained to me, and once I tried it, and once I realized that the alternative was either more medication or suffering through the challenges that I was suffering, I just made a commitment to myself and my family to try it. And when I did, I was just so glad that I did. But sure, you want to research it, and you want to understand, you want to ask questions. It's not something that you do every day. People take medication for anxiety and depression every day. TMS at the moment is not an everyday treatment, but it is an important treatment that has made a difference for me. And I think more people should try it.
What stood out to you about your experience overall here?
What stood out to me with my experience here was the consistency and simplicity of it. It was a very specific time. It was a very specific procedure. There was very little variance in how it would work. I knew that I would come in and devote a certain amount of time to it. There weren't times that were an hour and a half and other times that were 20 minutes. They were all pretty consistent. And after a while, I knew what to expect. And that comes down to the staff being experienced and knowledgeable and knowing what to do. And my experience was great.
When did you first notice something was changing?
So I first noticed changes probably a few weeks in. I noticed that I was able to be more patient with things. I noticed that I was able to, if you imagine being on a train platform and watching a train sort of pass by, I was able to sort of look at my challenges, things that would be overwhelming in the past. I was able to just sort of calmly just watch them by, but not in a numb way. Medication, for some people in certain circumstances, can cause a numbness, and that's not what this is. This is you feel better able to deal with the challenges. The rumination, is it there sometimes? Sure, we all ruminate sometimes, but it's nowhere near what it was. And I generally started noticing my mood being better. I started noticing my ability to deal with challenges being better. Things didn't frustrate me as much. I was just able to be a bit calmer. Again, that's how it worked for me. Can't speak for anyone other than me, but it was a very positive experience.
What was that moment like when you started really experiencing that?
It was the moment when I started experiencing it and realizing that it was making a difference was invigorating, because I knew that I had the balance of the treatment left, and I knew that the treatment would probably only help me even more as time went on. And I was excited. I would come in here, probably a little too bouncy, and excited to have my treatment because I knew that on the other side of the treatment was some relief.
What changes have you noticed since then?
The changes that I've noticed since the inception of the changes that I noticed, I guess, the way to say it, how I feel now is just better equipped to handle the frustrations of day-to-day life, and also handle the frustrations of some of the things that caused these challenges in the first place. I was a victim of the Eaton fire, and the losing your home in a fire, like so many in our community have. is really not something you ever get over. It's something you have to learn how to get your arms around and manage. And this TMS procedure, treatment, really made a difference in how I was able to deal with probably the biggest challenge that I had at that point, which was, how do you get through this horrible situation? How do you plan for your family and yourself for the future? And how do you think clearly and not be clouded by obsessive thoughts or any other challenges, where you're able to sort of part the clouds and sort of see the path forward? It's not a panacea, it doesn't solve everything, but it helps you to understand the way forward with a bit more clarity.
How would you say a good day looks like now?
So a good day for me now, there's a lot of things that I do now that I wasn't doing before. I don't feel the need to rest as much during the day. Sometimes I do, like we all do if we can. Sometimes I don't, but I am going to the gym 3 times a week with a trainer, which I absolutely love. And that has made a big difference in how I feel. But I don't know that I would have pursued that or felt the confidence to pursue that had I not had this treatment, because the treatment removed the film or the filter that was in front of me and enabled me to sort of see clearly some of the things that I wanted to try to do. Now, again, look, I wish that it's worked the same for everyone, and maybe it does. I don't know. I'm not trained in it, so I don't know how it works for everyone, but it worked for me. And I was just, a typical day for me now is just so much better than it was, and better than it was on medication.
And what does this change mean to you personally or to your family?
My family has seen a difference in me. I have a balance now of being very, very direct in a positive way. We're able to see much more clearly solutions to challenges that we have, without the challenge of rumination and the side effects of certain medication. And again, I want to be clear, the medication was helping, but not enough for me to not want to try something else. And we certainly did. Dr. Kachi was guiding me on what certain medications would do and how they might be different than previous medications. And some, I think that we did manage to get better every time. But even in his best case, it was pretty clear to me that I wanted to try something different and better, knowing that that potential different and better was out there and available for him.
If someone feels stuck like you did, what would you tell them?
If someone felt stuck, I would tell them that unless you go through it, you don't really know what it's like. And I've had family members who suffered with depression and anxiety, and people say, oh, well, you can just will your mood. You can shake it off. And truthfully, that's not the case in a lot of instances. And when you experience the depression or anxiety for the first time, and you are struggling with how to deal with it, and you try medication, and medication helps, but has its challenges, and then you are aware of a treatment, you do your homework on that treatment, you don't rush into that treatment, but you place that treatment in the journey, if you will. You say, it's part of my journey to dealing with this challenge that I have. I just feel so much more relief day to day. It's not perfect. Sure, sometimes you don't sleep well, or sometimes you have, you look at the world around us and there's challenges, and you look at those things and you have a family and if you have children and you want the best for your family and your children, of course you're going to have those concerns. But it's helped me to be able to deal with those challenges so much better.
And last question is this something you wish you had done earlier, or do you think the timing was right?
I think the time for me, starting this treatment was perfectly timed. And the reason for it is, like anyone who might be watching this, they might think that it is a treatment that is a bit too out there for them. They might not be comfortable with it at first. And admittedly, when it was first mentioned to me by Dr. Kachi, I trust Dr. Kachi, and I wasn't fearful of it, or I wasn't thinking it was, strange. I just put it on the shelf. And I wanted to focus on seeing the journey through with medication. And then I hit a fork in the road where I was thinking, do I want to continue with medication, or do I want to try this TMS that I had heard about and that I had seen become more and more popular? I don't know that I'd use the word popular, but I'd say more accepted and more in the mainstream. There was more information out there about it, and I got to a point where I wanted to try it. When I knew also that it was covered by my insurance, and that, yes, there was a financial responsibility in my copay for each visit. I understood that going into it, compared to the over-the-counter cost, if you will. It was so worth it for me. I would do it again in a minute if I had to.
Thank you, Jeff. Anything else you want to add?
No, that was very much genuinely how I felt about it.
It was great.
Good,
thank you for sharing it.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I hope it helps people.
It definitely will.
Good. Excellent. Good.